Commerce, which is where sheriff's homicide was an industrial area. And the adjoining city, interestingly enough, is Bell Gardens, just south of City of Commerce. And I get a call to go to Bell Gardens in light of a homicide that had just occurred. And that apparently he had been tased, as in they used the electronic control device to arrest him. It's in a residential area. It's like a multi-residential area. And in this particular crime scene, you have a single family residence in the front. Then you have a duplex in the back, two adjoining apartments in the back. I come to find out that the suspect lived directly across the street from this particular incident. The basic background to this case, as I was told, was that this guy, I believe his name was Kennedy, he had apparently a fascination for a female that lived in that house in the front. But she was already in a relationship, a same-sex relationship. The underlying issue there was maybe that to some extent had prompted his level of interest. But more than that, he was also in the military reserves, which I'll save that component of this particular incident. So there was an occasion or two where he would literally make gestures, verbally gestures toward her in an effort to try and gain some level of interest by her, and all of those, of course, were for naught. She was not going to have anything to do with him. And at one point, on one afternoon, about 3 p.m, no one knows why, but he suddenly snapped. And again, I'm not sure what it was that prompted him to be this way, but he proceeds to go across the street. Now, it doesn't take long to get across. It's a very small residential street. He goes to the back apartment complex, duplex, and he sees the father of this 10-year-old attempting to move a refrigerator. Now, his back, this particular male, Hispanic, his back is to the inside of the house, so he doesn't see what is about to happen, because at this point, Kennedy comes up and begins to stab him as he's moving his refrigerator. He's doing this in the presence of his 10-year-old and his wife as they're trying to maneuver this large refrigerator out this small apartment complex. Now he's like, oh my God, what's going on? And at this point, he was able to maneuver his way away, and he was able to push Kennedy away. And Kennedy then goes to the apartment just to the west, that duplex, and makes an effort to try and get in there. And he pulls the screen off, and they're pushed, and they realize something's going on next door, and they're prepared, and they literally have a chair, and they're basically pushing him away with the chair. Apparently he sees the futility of trying to get into that house for whatever reason. Again, I'm not sure what this, I guess it's food for thought for anybody that wants to listen to this. He then turns to the front house, and there is a back door, and it's unlocked, and he runs to the back door. And I guess she didn't hear what was going on because the washer and dryer are going on. And he runs in and he begins to stab her. Ultimately, he managed to murder her. 911 is called. Bell Gardens shows up. He's still in this mental rage, and they unfortunately had to tase him, whereupon they subdued him and ultimately took him into custody. A lot of evidence clearly reflecting that he had done that, despite the fact that we know it was him, despite the fact that we have ample evidence that it was him. We still have to look at it in the larger context, which is how do we connect him to that? We have his footprints, we have the knife, we have eyewitnesses, all of that reflective of him in that situation. So, interestingly enough, was that because he was a reservist in the Army, he had never been overseas. We could figure maybe that would have attributed to this, but he had never been overseas. And it turns out that I got a call, no exaggeration, like 10 different divisions of the United States Army asking me what had happened. And at one point after the 9th call and me explain, I said, hold on. I'm not explaining anymore. You send me one person so I don't have to repeat myself another 10 times. I don't know who these people were, what their justification for calling me, But they, in fact, were calling me all the time, and they were asking me, okay, so do you know what medication was under? I'm like, no, you guys are the ones that's, prescribing this stuff. Your doctors are. I mean, if he blew a fuse, I don't know, are you going to attribute it to you guys? Again, this guy never even went overseas, and they're in some way, somehow, attributing maybe his military enlistment, a reserve no less, not even a full-fledged army personnel. He is in fact just a reserve who shows up, 4 days or 3 days, every other month or whenever it is that they do. And we go to trial. And of course, his defense is, I was mentally ill. I was unaware of what I was doing. And the fact is that I should not be officially charged. I should be considered mentally incapacitated, and I didn't understand what I was doing, and which is in fact a defense. And if in fact the defense, as his attorneys can establish that he was in fact mentally ill at the time, then he would not face the consequences of a murder and attempted murder. They would in fact just put him in a mental institution, and if once he gets better, and I put those in air quotes, then he would be entitled to possibly even being released, despite the heinous things that he's done. What was of particular interest to me, this district attorney, he said, if Kennedy was in fact mentally ill and unable to understand what he was doing, then why didn't he just attack the tree and think that was the person that he was trying to attack? Instead, he specifically attacked people that resided in that particular property. And I thought that was an amazingly good argument, and ultimately it did in fact lead to Kennedy's conviction. He was convicted and got 35 years to life. Many instances, people will use the mental illness defense in an effort to try and avoid prosecution.